Man, the world has really just gone crazy, hasn't it? So, a bunch of different subjects that all really kind of boil down to the same thing. Um, and, I really don't care about Ghislaine Maxwell um, or another variant. But what I'm really concerned with is what the real source of the information is that we're getting, how we evaluate our information, taking a look at the psychological predisposition that is required to accept obviously false narratives. And also, I think, there are some um, overlooked and very, very obvious elements of propaganda. And, probably the most important is that we're all very much aware of my computer screen's frozen. Am I even live? Yeah, okay. I don't know what's going on with that. So I can't see the chat. In case you wonder why I'm not, let me try to just restart it. Everyone knows to be suspicious of the mainstream narrative, but when you start looking outside of the mainstream narrative, you are going to find a lot more bullshit. And it started to occur to me a long time ago, quite a while back, that a lot of the conspiracy theories and a lot of the sort of alternative narrative stuff is probably just as false as the mainstream narrative. And then it occurred to me even a little bit deeper that that's probably where they're going to focus their most propaganda efforts, is at the people that are actually looking outside of the mainstream. I'm sorry, guys. I can't figure out why this is. I guess, am I live? I can't. I can't tell. I might have to turn my phone around so I can see the chat, because I do want to be able to interact with you guys. I have no idea why this is frozen on my laptop. Okay, there we go. Maybe this is good. So, and we can be sure that a lot of the engineered perceptions and even our sort of protocol that we use to construct our worldview is going to be intentionally influenced by the same people that are, creating all these other false narratives. And so it's really important that we look at all of that and evaluate all of it and realize that you are not going to have a good source of information. Like, I've noticed that if you talk about the Illuminati, people are just absolutely convinced that whatever source of information is correct somehow. One of the most common memes is you see all these people with the hand symbols, and they all say proof that it's the Illuminati, but then there's no way of actually connecting any of those symbols to a group called the Illuminati. It's total conjecture. And so, my suggestion is that what is actually happening is that the tools and the assets that we have to catalyze our consciousness and to free ourselves from the mainstream matrix narrative are often demonized, and it should be really obvious to people. I mean, I'm just as frightened by the people that are outside of the box at this point as I am by the people that are inside of the box, because they're not believing what the sheeple are believing, but for the most part, it's just as much just regurgitating whatever bullshit everyone else thinks. And that's not going to do you any good. There are no good sources of information within the mainstream or outside of it. The only way that you're ever going to have any kind of real sense of what might be happening is through your own observation and the development of your own critical thinking capacities and ability to, put A and B together and extract for C, or extrapolate for C, I guess would be a better word. And so, let's take a look at how this is done, though, because it's important to be able to recognize the propaganda, to be able to see it for what it is. One of the things I noticed before COVID hit, I noticed it when COVID hit, but I started notice. Let me explain. So, 2020 before COVID, there was this huge flood of anti-vaxxers are idiots themed uh, content on social media. I mean, it was just like all people were saying, it seemed like. And then there was a flood of conspiracy theorists are all idiots, and something is any topic that is even related to a conspiracy or anyone that suggests anything that even sounds like a conspiracy, it's automatically stupid, it's automatically false. What's up, man? Um, and of course, that's insane. But furthermore, and the most suspicious aspect of it is that COVID hit after these waves of anti-vaxxer propaganda and after these huge waves of conspiracy theorists are morons. And so what just happened? What just happened? They approved the double vax, the vax for kids between 5 and 11. And then like 10 days later, they announced that there's a new variant that affects children. If you're not suspicious when something like that happens, you are brain dead. Like, you are not even alive. You are just like you're a zombie. Just so you know, just in case you need somebody to tell you. It's getting so obvious and so insane that you really have to be in a sort of like critical condition psychologically in order to not notice. And it's very consistent, okay? I try to be very critical. It's really important. You guys know I don't believe anything that anyone says anywhere. And, I don't buy into the Republican, right wing, left wing, none of it. And so I don't agree with anyone that I can find about anything all the time. Almost nothing, really. And I try to be very critical of my own thinking, and that's the most important part, and that's what people tend to really have a hard time with, because it triggers our greatest collective fear, I think, which is fear itself, basically, the fear of the unknown, having to admit that we don't know anything. It seems to me that for most people, the ego's greatest threat, the biggest fear, is that you just don't know jack shit about where the universe came from, where it's going, why you're here, what's going on in the government. You don't know, and you're not gonna know, and you have to somehow come to terms with that. For me, I think it's awesome, but my observation is that most people really struggle with that. So, and on my channel, I try to repetitively say, I have to speak without constantly telling you that I'm not 100% sure of anything, right? But it's got to be taken for granted that, I can only elaborate on a perspective, but that doesn't mean that I'm committed to any of it. You can't be. And so what I'm getting at with all that, though, is that, the possibility of coincidence is lowered by consistency, right? So if we had a huge wave of anti-vaxxer propaganda and then there was no illness, right? There's no like mandates for vaccines. Like if that had happened. But then you have the conspiracy propaganda, and now we have the Omicron thing where the vaccine is approved. I think it was like 10 days before they announced the new variant, and they stand to make billions of dollars from the situation. So, and I think the main thing to observe here is that the propaganda precedes these events that supposedly are not being orchestrated. And if it hadn't happened over and over and over again like that, where we have, the propaganda and then the event, and the propaganda and then the event, propaganda and then the event, it would be easier to dismiss as coincidence or to say, well, maybe there's nothing going on here. But since we're experiencing this with consistency, I think that it's pretty much as close to definite as we can come that something is seriously fucking fishy. And especially since the people at the very top, and the only people that would be capable of orchestrating and benefiting from this situation, it's all funneling right up to the tip of the pyramid. Okay, and now let's get into some more details of like why this clearly nothing is making sense. Both, and this is like official government, you check out the Rogan episode, it's not hard to find, I'm sorry, I didn't put a link in the description, but the two governments, their data, and what was it, South Africa and the UK, I'm pretty sure those are the two, um, they have said that 70% of the people that die from COVID are double vaxxed. Now, this is not rumor. I put it on Facebook. The fact checkers did not dispute it. This is official statistics from governments, not from Alex Jones, not from fucking Joe Rogan. I mean, honestly, I trust Joe Rogan more than any other media outlet, probably. I mean, I think he doesn't have any motivation to be full of shit, and he doesn't really seem like he could be bought. I think he's pretty neutral. And the fact that he'll have like right-winger guests and left-winger guests, I think that he really does he's attempting to be, balanced and just figure out what the fuck is going on. And using his platform to share that, whatever he can figure out. And so, but that's where I first caught wind of this. And if you think about what that means, you are not just like a little bit more likely to die from COVID if you're double vaxxed. You are way fucking more likely to die from COVID if you're double vaxxed. And this is hard science, hard statistics. Okay? So, the conspiracy theory regarding COVID is stupid narrative is like getting just blasted to smithereens. It's getting dissolved like it's in a bath of fucking battery acid. And I've tried to be in denial about it because what it implies is circumstance that is going to be very, very difficult to overcome. We're up against a machine that has been allowed to accumulate momentum. Oh no, is there any way to get like a weird porno weirdo out of the stream? Can I block them or something? Yeah, maybe these dots here. Let's see. What the hell? Okay, there we go. Get out of here with your weird bullshit. Yeah, so I think that's really the problem, and it's also part of the reason why people have so much trouble accepting these ideas. It's so threatening to think that there is no one in power that is protecting you. No one cares about you. Human beings are being farmed like some kind of animal. And it's just so appallingly obvious. And people, one of the best indications that you can have of the extent to which people are not using their heads is the fact that if you look throughout modern history and you look at like what Terence McKenna said about culture, right? Terence McKenna's IQ, no matter what you think about the rest of his behavior, is probably 1 in 10 billion or something. His linguistic pyrotechnics were just, they're unparalleled. Timothy Leary, I know a lot of people think he was a CIA agent or whatever, but he was also one of the highest IQs ever tested. And he shared Terence McKenna's opinions about government and culture and all of this stuff. And so there's a reason why cult and culture, are related etymologies. Culture is not your friend. You know what? In fact, let's look up this entire quote. It's worth it. I'm actually working on a Terence McKenna video that is going to be really, really good. So I hope you guys will stick around to check that out, or subscribe, of course, and then you'll see it. Let's see. The quote is: "Culture is not your friend. It's an impediment to understanding what's going on. That's why the words cult and culture have a direct relationship to each other. Culture is an extremely repressive cult that leads to all kinds of humiliation, degradation, and automatic, unquestioned, and unthinking behavior." And that's it. And so one of the questions that we need to ask ourselves collectively, you guys already know this, I'm sure. Anyone that's watching my channel is probably already aware that if you're smart, you're not going to look to your average person to figure out what to think. And I think that the people in denial about, the realities of the government and big pharma and all of these institutions, why is it that the great geniuses from Aldous Huxley to Terence McKenna to Timothy Leary to Einstein to all of them have the same opinion. Like if you look at the really, really brilliant, high IQ people, they all share the same opinion about government and big business and everything. You know, I'm not entirely, I don't know how to say this, people will hate me for it, but population management has always been a concern of empire. And I've thought a lot about this, and if this is in response to Suzanne saying that the total population, 250 to 300 million people, a 95% decline would be ideal. Um, I don't know that that's really untrue. I mean, what we have is this huge, massive collective of completely mindless, ignorant, destructive, toxin exuding, environment destroying people that are barely even conscious anyways. So I don't know that having this massive population is really doing anything any good. And if we're really one eternal infinite consciousness, then it's not really death. It doesn't, you know, I mean, I think that the population reduction will happen with their help or without it. You know, so, and I understand why they say that. If we had a very small group of people, everything was automated. You know, we have all this AI. I saw today that there's self-replicating. So there's robots now that can reproduce on their own. Living robots. They're alive. Not AI. We're talking about living robots that are capable of reproducing. So I understand, you know, and that was the part of the plan of the Illuminati for sure, to create a very, very small population where everything was automated, and that would allow that very small population to focus on art, music, science, philosophy, all of the things that really actually matter, all of the really noble pursuits that humanity is capable of, you know, endeavoring to pursue, without all of the suffering and starving people everywhere, and without the capacity to even exploit all these people because they no longer exist. And I think that no matter how you feel about that, it's very likely that it's happening. I think it's pretty much definitely happening. Well, you know, John Lennon, in my opinion, he's correct about that, but he was also one of the biggest frauds ever. You know, people like to ignore the fact that he punched a female reporter in the face and broke her nose just for taking a picture of him. He protested inequality by laying in a hotel bedroom in a $25,000 a week a suite and refusing to get out of bed. Like, his son that was not born to Yoko, he only left $50,000, and Yoko actually fought him when he sued to get his rightful part of the estate. So John Lennon is not really the best example, I don't think, of someone to. I think what happened there is that Yoko told him he'll make more money and the kids will identify with him if he pretended to be a hippie. I don't think there was anything sincere about it all. Yeah, John Lennon was a fucking terrible person. And Imagine was a terrible song. But I do agree that our society is run by insane people for insane objectives. Certainly some of the things that he said were correct, but I'm no Lennon fan. So, you know, I mean, we're in a very difficult situation because we have no real source of good information. You know, most of our prophets turn out to be just for profit, as John Lennon. It's like the whole thing, our whole modern society, our whole modern culture is a farce. No, I'm not a Marxist. I'm not an anythingist. I'm not a communist. I'm not a capitalist. I think that all of those ism schism games are created in order to divide people. I think that the reason that Americans are so brainwashed to just, they hear the word socialism and they're like, that's terrible. I hate to tell them, but some of the happiest populations and successful, and everyone's medical is taken care of. I know these people personally, a lot of them. They come to visit me. They're so poor in their socialist country that they'll fly across the planet and come and stay wherever they want and pay me 4 or 5 times what I'm asking for. You know what I mean? Like, obviously, you're socialist, you have no money narrative is bullshit, and the only reason that it's created is to keep people. They're demonizing the tools that will liberate you and destroy them. Like, you know, we have to have the courage to. Do I possess job skills? I mean, what do you mean? Yeah, my IQ's in the top 1% in the United States. My aptitude test in the top 1% in every category. What do you mean, do I have job skills? I mean, what the fuck kind of question is that? I would never work a job. I would never work for someone else. Like, absolutely not. Everything I do on my own, and, you know, I mean, I trade crypto, and I facilitate ayahuasca ceremonies, and sometimes supporters just send us money. But no one should ever do anything they don't want to. And I think the idea that, like, you need to be a slave and work for 40 hours a week so that the people at the top of the pyramid can, you know, drive gold-plated Lamborghinis and have 15 of them or whatever. I mean, it's all just, I hide my stratosphere. Well, what the fuck are you watching my channel for? I mean, if I'm so dumb, what do you, like, seriously, you have nothing better to do than sit here and watch someone you think is an idiot talk about stuff? Let's get rid of that person. I mean, what the hell? Like, how stupid can you be? So, where am I going with this? Yeah, we have to liberate ourselves. That is really the main gist of all this. And I think that one of our biggest difficulties is that it's not just the mainstream narrative that is full of bullshit. The conspiracy theorists, you know, I don't trust Alex Jones. I don't trust David Icke. I don't know that they're compromised. I don't know that they're not compromised. But I think that what we really have to do is to stop looking to other people for answers. Why am I using profanity? Where are these fucking people coming from? Because I use profanity. You guys want to know? Let's deviate for a second and talk about how profanity was invented. Because I actually use so much profanity because of why we're not supposed to use four-letter words, because it's totally superstitious and stupid. And I think that when we realize that we have been indoctrinated to believe something stupid, we have an obligation to actually do that thing, right? Like if Gandhi said, if there is an unjust law, we have to break it, even if it means suffering the consequences. We're obligated to do so. So, oh my God, she's a fucking Christian, man. Get the fuck out of here. Well, no, I'm not gonna block her yet because man, I must have shared this in a group where there's like a lot of fucking morons, man. Because this has never happened before. Why am I using profanity? Who the fuck even thinks like that anymore? So anyways, the reason I say fuck so much is because Christians exist, and because the way that four-letter words actually originally became cursed is that the tetragrammaton is this glyph that the Jews way back in the day came up with to represent the unspeakable four-letter name of God. And I mean, it's just crazy, you know, high IQ people use a lot of profanity, and she's like, you're dumb, and why do you use a lot of profanity? This is like, and that's how religious people are just like that. Like, they're the biggest idiots on the face of the earth, otherwise they wouldn't be religious, right? It's not possible, right, to have religion and be intelligent. You can't do both. So anyways, four-letter words, Yod, He, Vav, He, are the four letters from Hebrew. And each one is a glyph of many different things. So it has compressed meaning in a small symbol. This is one of the ways that these things derive their power. But so it's not that the unspeakable name of God is four letters, it's just a glyph that represents this unspeakable name of God. And it's said that if you accidentally were to pronounce it correctly, you would destroy the universe. And that is where four-letter words being prohibited come from. So for me to take seriously the idea that I shouldn't say fuck, shit, damn, cunt, whatever, because there are four letters in it, because I should be worried that I might destroy the universe if I say them, even though the word that we're trying to avoid saying doesn't have four letters even. You know, I mean, seriously, like, why? That is just like the most brain dead shit ever. I mean, stop it. Get the fuck out of here. Jesus, what did I do, man? Did I promo this in like a Christian group or something? It's the craziest thing ever. Okay, so, the propaganda part about how the propaganda has been preceding the events, that's really important to pay attention to, and I wanted to offer it in case you guys haven't noticed that. I mean, I don't even know why I had to say all that shit. That was just weird. Like, and And if she, did you see how long that woman was in the chat, like watching someone that she's saying she thinks is an idiot? Like, what was it, like research for her or something? Does she not see the fucking Baphomet behind me? Like, oh, so what was I saying? Okay, so that was really important because I wanted to make sure that in case you guys haven't noticed that you have that in your arsenal to point out to people because it's verifiable. Like, how is it that we keep having these waves of attitude and perception influencing information hitting social media and then something happens that is related to the propaganda? It's just too much, right? So, but as far as polluted non-mainstream narratives, you have people repeating a lot of stuff that they clearly have not. Where are all these haters coming from, dude? This is just absolutely crazy, man. Fucking, what happened here, man? I've had to block like half the people in here because they're like Jesus freaks or something. It's just crazy. And notice that they didn't have any like intelligent arguments or any like criticism that they could actually coherently articulate. They're just like randomly calling me stupid or whatever. But what I'm saying is that if we're really trying to make progress as the sort of awakened collective that is hoping to wake up the rest of the sheeple before we're all destroyed, or if there's any kind of I don't think they're bots, man. They were really idiots, real idiots. We have to make sure that we pay attention and that we don't make easy targets of ourselves. And this is one of the biggest problems that I see out there. People are not thinking things through before they're believing them, and then they repeat them, and then it's really obvious to the people we need to reach that people are believing stupid shit and repeating it. And that's not going to help our cause at all. What a good example of this is, that everyone was talking about how they don't want to get the vax because they're afraid there are mind control agents or that it's going to kill them. And I don't have a vaccination. I think, now that we have data from actual, government agencies that the Matrix Muggle normies would not refute, that proves that people that have gotten the vaccine are at least 20% more likely to die from COVID. Right? Like, that is solid. But when people talk about mind control agents in the vaccine, they seem to fail to notice that it's the people that don't take the vaccine, that won't take the vaccine, that would be the ones that they would want to kill. And so, I think it's really important that we really think things through and think about how we're presenting stuff, because if you start running your mouth about how they're using the vaccine to bring society under control, but then they're only using it to kill the people that they already control, or to control their minds, it just reeks of completely mindless bullshit, right? So we have to really get good at this stuff, at valuing the information so that we don't make fools of an entire movement, because that's what happens. When we have this huge chorus of conspiracy theorists are idiots, conspiracy theorists are idiots, and then we have all these people that are repeating all of these totally stupid things, it just reinforces it and makes it totally easy for the people that are being brainwashed to accept that the information that they're receiving is accurate, because that's what it looks like. Well, I wish I could read, what is that, Vietnamese? By the way, you guys, please do hit the like button, share, subscribe, support us on Patreon. I'm going to run a special tonight because it's the end of the month, Anybody that signs up for anything on Patreon, I will double. So if you sign up for like a window of time for like integration, or if you want like ritual magic instruction, or to learn about shamanism or guitar lesson or whatever it is on Zoom, I will double your block of time because it's the end of the month. Only tonight though, only tonight. Otherwise, you can also support us by sending crypto to the wallet address and PayPal and Zelle. Really appreciate it. I say a lot of things that piss a lot of people off, so I've lost a lot of supporters again. Okay, so let's talk about Ghislaine Maxwell. Like, I don't really want to talk about it, but I think it's important to. What is this duck bear? Oh, my light just died. Well, that's fine. The timing of the new variant and Ghislaine Maxwell trial starting is definitely pretty suspicious. It's really convenient. And I remember people making fun of me on Facebook because I was pointing out that, you know, here's this trial of this Kyle Rittenhouse kid who clearly was defending himself. I know a lot of people will hate me for saying that, you know, because I have a lot of liberals out there, and I'm basically a liberal myself. But after looking at the video and hearing the trial and everything, man, if you think that kid wasn't defending himself, I got no love for you. Like, we do not live in a perfect world yet where everyone can just be peaceful, and people were robbing stores and starting fires, and somebody called him to come and protect them, and there was a pedophile and people beating him with skateboards, and he shot him, like, you know? So there's all this attention being given to this Kyle Rittenhouse case, and here's this case that involves all of these elite people: Bill Clinton, Donald Trump, all of these people on the Lolita Express flying out to this island, and nobody is paying any attention to that trial because we have a new variant of a disease that kills 0.0000001% of the people that get it or something. Like, I mean, it's like it's such a shit show that they are having to create diversions so rapidly that it's effectively scrambling the brains of the people that are trying to follow it. But anyways, I was saying, you know, they are definitely trying to keep the attention diverted from the Ghislaine Maxwell trial, because she's gonna talk. She'll probably die if she talks. It's a tough call because she's so high profile that if she dies, it's gonna just confirm a lot of conspiracy theories and stuff. But if she's looking at like 200 years and she actually rats out all these elites, I mean, they're kind of in a tough position with her because there's so much attention on the situation. They can't really whack her, you know. All they can do is kind of try to divert the attention. So I posted something on Facebook about how, you know, they're trying to keep it quiet. They're using diversions like Kyle Rittenhouse, who never should have been charged with anything in the first place. And, you know, Omicron variant and everything, like, hey, look over here while we're doing this shit. And so, you know, people were making fun of me, and then the judge that was presiding over the case said that it was too graphic for public eyes, and that they needed to keep the press out. So the corruption, the ability, the efforts to conceal what's happening, it's just getting so blatantly obvious that it's scaring me, because the final phase before outright fascism is that they stop concealment, right? Like, that's kind of where all this is going, that what these events are all indicators of is that the deep shit that we're already in is about to get way, 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 way deeper, because they're not even trying anymore to conceal their shenanigans. Well, while we're on the subject of Ghislaine Maxwell, um, I wanted to point something out for anyone that might have been a Trump supporter. As the flight logs have continued to be uncovered and the pilot is now talking, Donald Trump is definitely a fucking pedophile and he was definitely Epstein's boy. And all these people out there that were saying, he's gonna protect us from the pedophiles, he's going after them, while he's like slapping his own daughter on the ass and making comments about how he wanted to bang her when she was only 13 years old and all this stuff. You know, it's not just the liberals that are retarded, guys. I hate to tell you this, but it's most of the people on both sides of the aisle. And if you're not just thinking critically, if you believe in any one of the puppets that they present to you, and that puppet is not shot in the head immediately, you've been fooled. And you just need to just accept it and get over it, because we don't have any time to waste trying to believe in these old fairy tales from the old world. You know, you don't have any leaders that are going to come and rise up. You know, the reason that you expect that and believe in it is because you've been indoctrinated in the Judeo-Christian Messiah mythology since birth. And you also have been indoctrinated to believe that presidents are good and powerful and moral. And they have always been puppets of corporations. You know, they, look, when a president makes a decision to drop a nuke on Japan, he knows he's killing men, women, and children, and he does not care. And they're all like that. They don't care at all, not at all. You know, and that's one of the things I think that we really have seen a lot of with just the public at large right now, is that a lot of people just can't accept that they could actually be as bad as it looks like they are. And the scary thing for me is that you can present the absolute proof and just say, look, this is that bad, like Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and it happened and you know it, right? Like, you think the Twin Towers was bad. We blew up 2 whole cities and then cry about terrorism. Like, you know, snap out of it, people. We have a serious fucking problem here. What's next? Polar bear extension? I'm not a Marxist-Leninist. I have never read any kind of Marxist-Leninist. I'm not a communist. I'm not an anythingist. And that's the thing. Like, you are so brainwashed and indoctrinated that you can't understand that people can just be free-thinking, autonomous beings without any kind of affiliation to any religion, any political doctrine. None of that shit. There are people that are actually capable of composing their own inner being, of creating their own ontology that is not, you know, I mean, some people can actually think. This might be a surprise to you, but it actually is possible to have original thought and to just, you know, evaluate all of these systems. And it is true that the likelihood is that through synergy, yeah, I mean, war is murdering people, including women and children, for profit. That's a fact. And all of your leaders always have done it. And it doesn't matter if you're American citizens. People think that, like, oh, well, they'll kill foreigners, but they wouldn't kill us. When you're willing to decide that people are going to die en masse, you don't care who they are or what flag they fly. This is all the bullshit that you have been... Man, I'm really getting sick of these trolls tonight, man. And it's funny because every single one of them has just been dumb as a brick. You know what I mean? Like, just unable to think about anything in their own terms, and only, you know what I mean? Like, it's like religious people that only can conceive of people having spirituality that they adopted from some other, you know, from a book or from a teacher or a guru or something. That's not the reality. Yeah, Charles, I almost went to Iraq, but I went AWOL. My platoon was the first one to hit the sands, but I didn't actually go because I just took off to go to DC before boot camp. Oh, you guys, I know how I got all these people in here. I shared this in a libertarian group because I was under the mistaken impression that libertarians were people that absolutely believed in freedom, sort of like an anarchist, but like with almost no government or something. And it turns out they're mostly like right-wing Christian fascist fucking idiots. It's really sad because I thought maybe there was still like a third party that would have some kind of possibility to like take over and straight. I mean, it's a stupid idea. They're so entrenched with the elites that it was dumb to even consider that. But I did. So I thought I might find some allies in the libertarian thing, but you know, clearly they. I'm like, what was I saying? Can any of you guys tell me like why would they have thought I was a Marxist or a Leninist? Because I was saying that capitalists exploit people. I mean, criticizing capitalism does not make you a communist, right? I don't understand. Yeah, that's what I imagine. Yeah, and I think what's happening is the infiltration of everything is seriously intense. Like they are everywhere, and they have. I was talking to our neighbor downstairs about this earlier tonight. That in the like early 2000s, we had a similar awakening event. Only people were not just like blithering idiots and insane and divided and you know, I mean they had the capacity to think for themselves, and people all realized what was happening. Like all of the liberals that I knew that you know major corporations were you know attacking their own citizens, and you know they didn't trust big pharma, didn't want to take any of their medications and stuff. And look at them now. Like they have none of the spine that they had in 2020. It was only 20 years ago. What happened? Like what happened? How did they do this? How did they erase the rebel spirit from the entire left wing and turn them into just a mass? Oh, okay. So here's some more, you guys. Ghislaine Maxwell trial, right? This is propaganda for sure. Some what is her name? It doesn't matter what her name is. A non what do they call people that don't have a sex? Non-binary professor from some university was saying that we needed to change the name of pedophiles so that the stigma is they're no longer stigmatized, so that pedophiles can move freely about us and you know not have to worry about being identified as a threat to children. And it's not just this one university professor. I've been hearing this from various psychologists from Ivy League universities. And honestly, for the most part, I don't think it's really part of a conspiracy. This last one I do kind of, but I don't really think it's part of a conspiracy. I understand what they're actually trying to do. And this is a good example of how the right will, it's like you get some information and just take it and run with it, right? What they were originally saying is that pedophilia, they've done brain scans on pedophiles and they've realized that there's something that is just not formed correctly in their brain. And so, and then on the other hand, if not, it's because they were molested and traumatized as a child. So if you are going to castrate pedophiles and feed them to pit bulls or whatever it is that most people would suggest that you do, you're basically feeding a victimized child to a pit bull as an adult, and that's not the right thing to do, really. And then you know if you have someone whose brain was just never developed properly, they're trying to destigmatize it so they could treat it as an illness, because then pedophiles might go to get help instead of actually molesting a child. So there were some academics that had the right idea about doing damage control to try to soften the image of pedophiles, but not so that people would love pedophiles and support them. And there's, you know, the liberals are not satanic lunatics that want to make pedophilia normal and shit. That's all just like government propaganda bullshit. And so what they've done here is made an example of a left-leaning, non-binary professor to make it appear that liberals actually are pedophile-loving, psychopathic, satanic criminals. It's all just... And then on top of it, though, they are genuinely hoping that they can create some momentum behind the idea that pedophiles need to be destigmatized, because all of the elites are getting outed as being pedophiles. And I don't understand what the mainstream position on this is. Europeans that I've talked to have known for 1,000 years or whatever, forever, that the elite are pedophiles in their countries. This is not anything new. Why that might be the case, is it because they're at the pinnacle of power and they run out of entertainment, or is it because it's ritualized? I have to turn my tea off. Or what? You know what I mean? Like, why exactly is it so completely rampant? It doesn't matter. God, this is just all so convoluted. You know what I mean? There's so many layers um, to all of it. So let's dig this apart a little bit more too. What they're trying to suggest that they change the name pedophile to minor attracted person, and so that's not actually true, because there are 3 different terms for adults that are attracted to much younger people. And in some states, there are actually levels of criminality, which I think is appropriate. I mean, I think for a 30-year-old to have sex with a sexually active 16-year-old has got nothing in common with a 32-year-old having sex with a 7-year-old. These are 2 different levels of criminality, right? I mean, in my opinion. And so there are different terms for an adult that's attracted to a, late teen, and there's a term that describes an adult that's attracted to a mid-teen, but past puberty. Pedophile refers to prepubescent sexual attraction. So a pedophile is not a minor attracted person. A pedophile is someone who is attracted to prepubescent children. And so the suggestion that we need to destigmatize a word that just describes a thing, it's like saying that we need to destigmatize the word murderer, so that murderers, what? So that they're not identified as murderers and they can continue to murder people more easily? I mean, it's just become so much like a surrealist, absurdist drama that it's hard to believe that we're actually witnessing some of the spectacles that are unfolding. It really is, and I hate to be the harbinger of sort of bad news or complications, but, I'm thoroughly convinced that the mainstream narrative is completely brain dead bullshit, but most of the alternative narratives are also totally full of lies and distractions and misdirection, right? So, our spiritual practice and our intellectual growth. You guys notice something? You do hear about advancing yourself in financial literacy, making more money, improving your job skills. You also hear a lot about improving your physical health, right? Your diet. And then there's a lot out there about how it's important to have a spiritual practice, a spiritual dimension. Of course, that one is ridiculed a lot more and put down because there's definitely a constituency that does not like that sort of thing developing in the herd. Tends to rock the boat. Really spiritually aware people are not governable, by the way. So that's problematic. But what you don't hear about is how important it is to develop your intellect, to develop critical thinking skills, to develop powers of analysis, right? And this is one of the reasons that I'm suspicious of people like Alex Jones and David Icke and anyone that's really capitalizing on, presenting a mainstream or a non-mainstream narrative to people, is that they don't do what I do. And I'm not trying to float my own boat, but I encourage people to actually develop their own cognitive capacities and to, develop a more sophisticated relationship with their own perceptual apparatuses, right? And to really develop themselves in that way as much as possible through as many disciplines as you possibly can. I'm not trying to tell you what to think, right? I'm just telling you to think. And it seems to me that if any of these people out there were really sincerely trying to like wake people up and have a positive impact and do something with meaning, they would be telling people to think for themselves, to analyze, even the stuff that they're telling them, and they don't. And you know why? Because it's bullshit and they know it, most of it. And so they're not really in a hurry to convince you to think for yourself. Even the people that are supposed to be like non-mainstream, alternative information sources. So the reality is we have no source of information that we can trust. Your only hope is to develop your intuition, your intellect, your ability to think critically, and simplify. I think simplifying by not really getting too deep into the particularities of what's going on with I don't even remember the names of any of these organizations anymore. I haven't thought about conspiracy stuff for years. The giant financial institutions, the World Bank, and the one that starts with C, I can't remember, it's 3 letters. Not CDC, but the financial one. You know what I mean? Like getting into the intricacies and the details of what is going on in the global power structures is really just a distraction. You're not going to get anywhere. You may fill your head full of a bunch of crap that may or may not be correct, but you're not going to get anywhere. So just don't do it. Spend your time in the mountains. Try to stay away from your computer as much as possible. Don't get sucked into fear. Don't try to analyze it. Be skeptical of single thing you see. Don't believe what you think. Don't believe anything you think. Don't believe anything anyone else thinks. And be okay with being in a state of, not knowing. And then you might have a chance of actually finding some peace amongst all of this craziness. But, I have made an obligation to be honest and truthful, and with the events of the last, 3 weeks or so, any lingering doubt I had as to whether or not there was some sort of New World Order type absolute control agenda getting a stranglehold on humanity has pretty much vanished. I'm pretty sure that we're really in for it. Really, really in for it. And honestly, I've known this for 20 years, and I can't say that I'm proud of the fact that I didn't listen to my intuition enough. I didn't believe myself. I questioned it all, even though I knew I was right. And I think that we've all been in denial because we don't want to deal with it. We want to go on about our lives and achieve our goals and dreams. And, if we turn out to be wrong, because it is true that anything that anyone thinks, anyone says, could all be absolute bullshit at the end of the day. I think that, what we can use all of these experiences for, if we've been confronted with the possibility of not really having a future, of our society devolving and disintegrating into an absolute and total collapse, of the complete and total exploitation, not just the, nearly total exploitation of the entire human race. And maybe if that doesn't happen and we get another chance to move forward and stand in the light of a new dawn, after having to confront these possibilities, we will not take things for granted to the extent that we did in the past. We will value the potential that's available to us if all of this stuff turns out not to end in worst case scenario. Hopefully we can use all of this to better ourselves, to extend our personal empires, to cultivate our beings, and to really realize that we have to live for our dreams, and that we can't make excuses, we can't procrastinate, we can't hesitate. We have to use this all as an inspiration, as a life lesson, even if it is worst case scenario, we still need to do our best to do all of those things. But that's what I'm trying to take away from it. You know, that if I'm wrong, and the new world order turns out to not happen, it'll just be such a relief, and you know, we'll just to be able to be free and without fear, and to watch humanity get its senses back after all of this blows over. Um, you know, I think it would be absolutely amazing, and it's not without purpose, because it's not possible for a new order to emerge without chaos. There must be space in order to facilitate movement, right? So some degree of disintegration is necessary in order for something new to emerge. The phoenix process that is happening in our individual lives is happening in the collective. One last thing that I wanted to talk about before I go, because I do have ayahuasca brewing and I have to go down and take care of it. This is a very powerful lesson, and it's very important, and it's something that we have to allow to influence our conduct right here and now. Even though the example that I'm going to give is trans-temporal, right? It goes way back into the past, and our behavior in this regard is only really going to affect the future. But if you look at all of the stuff that is happening in the United States and in other places around the world, but you know, let's just focus on the United States because it's one of the biggest shit shows. What you'll see is that it is actually the consequences of historical trauma catching up with the collective. And so I think that when we look out at the consequences of racial suppression in the past, of the kind of abuses that we have tolerated in our society, the way that we've looked the other way when our neighbors are maybe abusive to their kids, or the people down the street are starving, people doing that over generations and generations and generations has caught up with us, and it's totally disintegrating our society. There are people that are intentionally adding to the division in the interest of exploitation, in the interest of keeping people divided so that they cannot rise up and overtake the elite, or so that they don't realize that they can, because it's actually a really, really small number of people that we need to find and tar and feather and eat or whatever. But that's something that I think that we really have to have an awareness of. If we do get a second chance at modern life, we have to change the way we conduct ourselves. We have to change the way we relate to ourselves and each other. Because as far as I can tell, the universe is just one eternal consciousness, and we're going to experience everything from every point of view before it's all said and done. So you cannot cause suffering that you are not going to receive. And even if you don't receive the karmic consequences of your actions in the moment, they are going to catch up with us collectively or individually eventually. There's no escaping this. And so, you know, that's really the only lesson you can take away from the entirety of human history. There's nothing to be learned from the details except for the aesthetic of the devil, right? The only message that we ever get resonating back to us from the void of eternity is that we have to learn to live in love, right? Ultimately, at the end of the day, that's the only message that is ever coming from anything that means anything, that you can be certain of its validity and of its consequence. So, thank you guys so much for spending this time with me. If you like this channel, please support us. We've lost a lot of patrons lately. I don't know what I did, but he who speaks the truth has no friends. Old African proverb, right? So thank you guys so much, and please don't believe anything out there. Just don't believe any of it. It doesn't. None of it's true. None of it's true. Right? You can't trust anything. You just have to cultivate yourself, your inner being, your intellectual capacity, right? Your soul, your spirit, your skill set. Forget about trying to figure out what's going on. You're not going to do it. You're just not going to do it. So there are ways to support us in the chat and in the description. Our crypto wallet. Also, guys, buy Eagle Eye token. I'm telling you, 600,000 market cap. It's blowing up every day. It's gonna 100x. Put $100 in there, because what you need to do right now is buy cryptocurrency, make it explode, translate it back to fiat, right? Switch it back to fiat, trade it back to fiat, and then create real assets with it before the shit has all the way hit the fan. That's it. That's what you got to do, right? So, thank you guys so much. Please support us if you can, and we'll see you again soon. Totally different topic, Terrence McKenna video. We'll get back to metaphysics and stuff. But this stuff is it's just so crazy at this point, and it's done so much damage to so many people's minds and so many relationships, you know. I just feel like I had to weigh in and offer something and just discourage everyone from believing anything to the best of my ability. So good night.